Free your mind now. Be part of People's Pan-African Parliament, the Pan-African Pyramid Debate with your speaker, Andrew Irumba Katusabe.
A very good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome aboard. Welcome to another edition of the Pan-African Pyramid Show here at Fairway Hotel. We're always here from 5 to 8 p.m. on Friday at Fairway Hotel. And the recorded version of the same runs on NBS television on Saturday from 4 to 5 p.m. And the repeat runs on Monday from 2 to 3 p.m. My name is Andrew Irumba Katusabe Atenyi, your speaker. And tonight we're glad we've been actually joined by a comrade from Ghana, Mr. Ablode. Ablode is now a PhD. He graduated last week. And he said, I must celebrate my first day from Uganda. And he's here with us. Give him a round of applause. Foreign asset protection and asset-based development as a masterpiece to Africa's development. Ablode, the research paper he's doing is about this. How do we use our sovereign assets? As nations, as countries, as continents, we have our own assets, the mineral resources, the human capital, our geographical location. Because you know that Kenya is more advantageous than Uganda in terms of transport, sea transport, isn't it? Because it is near the sea. But also Uganda is a part of Africa. So there are things that we have that nobody can take out of us. There are things that God gave us. How do we use those as capital? Rather than telling me, America is giving you $100,000 billion, and that is the money, that is the richness, that's the wealth you want us to focus on. Ablode tells you, you actually have enough resources to manufacture your own capital. And from your own capital, do things that can benefit your people. Let anybody who is coming to your continent, to your country, Africa or Uganda, come as a development partner. He's not coming to tell you, do this and I give you this. Like the LGBTQ. I played it intentionally. Somebody is telling you, you are youth. If you want to come to America, please adopt LGBTQ for you to come to America. And so you're going to work. Even some of these people sell land. Land, an asset. You sell land to get a visa. And by the way, visa you apply, there is also a possibility saying, no, you're not welcome. But you have paid. Have you ever realized that you pay all that money to apply for a visa, and when they say no, you cannot return that money? It's gone. It's gone. So you sold land, an asset. You want to go to America to do what? Do we have some assets here? Do we have our sovereign assets that we can turn into our wealth? After understanding the value of our sovereign assets, can we have a mechanism of protecting against them? Protection. If you have gold, if you have timber in Congo, how are you as a country able to protect that wealth? So that anybody who comes to partake of it comes on your terms, not on their terms. Right now, they're in Congo, not on Congo's terms. They are there on their terms. These wheats, they're in Congo on their terms, not on Congolese terms. Therefore, you have little say on your sovereign wealth. That's what Ablode's paper is talking about. And that's why he actually came here to Uganda tonight to share knowledge about. I want to give him a very big round of applause. And next to him is a man I've just met for the first time, but they've been doing some great job, and I'm going to visit them very soon. There is a man called Bantu Banalekaki. He comes from the Buntu nation, that gentleman in the middle there. I will visit him. I will not tell what he is today. But he has a master's degree in science, isn't it? Computer science. He has a master's degree in computer science. I spent with him 20 minutes down there. What we discussed, I realized I don't need to benefit alone. I said, no, stop there. Gentlemen, let's organize a day for you to come here and we share that knowledge. I'd like you also to give him a round of applause. And of course on the panel, you have to be gender sensitive. Ms. Shamim Kemikisa brings that gender balance. Shamim Kemikisa is a lecturer at the Makerere University Business School. I have not heard that round of applause as well. Is it because she's a woman? Is it because she's a woman? Or because you have seen her before, so she doesn't deserve? Please. Anyway, I'm joking. But ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Comrade Kodzo Ablode to partake of that mic.
I'm very glad to be back on this podium again. The last time was in October last year. And I'm happy to see you again. Today, I want us to shift away from normal lectures and try to do a bit of understanding of some of the issues that we gather here every time and talk about. If I ask in this room a question, what is Africa's problem? I'm sure I'll get as many answers as individuals that are in the room. We have failed to define exactly what our problem is, but we are struggling to address the problem. But I'm glad we are getting to the end of a cycle where leaders are beginning to speak boldly to some of the issues that challenge us. What I'm going to try to do today is to trigger your minds to begin to reason out some of the things that we see, some of our realities. I'll start with sovereignty. What is sovereignty? We get up every day, we say Uganda is a sovereign country, Ghana is a sovereign country. When you say sovereignty, what exactly does it mean? Sovereignty simply means to own and control your assets. Sovereignty is about assets. It's about ownership and control of assets. I don't know if anybody has any other definition. Sovereignty is the power and the ability to own, one, and two, control whatever you have. And in this context, I don't want to limit it to Uganda, Kenya, the so-called African countries. Let it begin with you. Where is your sovereignty? Do you really own and control what you have? Then let's go to the family. Let's go to the, I call them colonial resource enclaves. Because these things we call countries in Africa are not the same as what they call countries in Europe. In Europe, the Portuguese are people who come from Portugal and they speak Portuguese. And that is a country. The French come from France and they speak French. That is a country. The Germans come from Germany and they speak German. So what we are referring to as countries are not the same as what they call countries in the Anglo-Saxon sphere. Let's get that very clear. What we are calling countries in Africa, I call them colonial resource enclaves. They are not countries.
At least call them nations. If you don't want to call them countries.
Africa is
but at least a nation is a collection.
Africa is the only nation we have. Africa has only one boundary, which is on the oceans. Anything you are calling countries are not our creation. They are not part of our nature. They are not ours. It will never work for us until we realign it to who we are and what we want. The boundaries we see today only exist in our minds. And they are boundaries. You know what boundaries are? They are blockades. A boundary is you can't cross. You know, it's a blockade. Because of the boundaries we have 54 telephone codes. Every enclave has its own currency. We have small units.
Enclave, you have refused to call it
small units here and there. So where is our sovereignty? What do we own? And what do we control? Even as you as an individual. You don't even control your own thoughts. Your power center is controlled by somebody else. I want to say that when we talk about our issues, it begins with who are we talking about? We are Africans. There is no Africa without the African people. This conversation is about the people. But do we even accept that we are Africans? And who is an African? Is it just, I don't accept anybody to call me black because I'm not black. And you don't describe a person by the color of the skin, but you describe people by where they come from. So it's an issue of identity. I have mentioned it, I don't know whether on this platform or somewhere else. If we are serious about dealing with our challenges, the start point is self-definition. What do you call yourself? Because this conversation is for Africans. Are you qualified to be here if your name cannot define you? If your name cannot show who you are? If your name cannot identify you? And I find people try to justify their slave names by saying, I'm a Christian. There is no African who is a Christian. And there is no African who is a Muslim. I want it to be on record. Africans are Africans.
The clapping means you agree. Hey. Okay.
There is no African who is a Christian. Christianity found Africans in Africa. Islam found Africans in Africa and cannot change the African into anything else. Whether you like it or not, that is the truth. If we are sovereign, then we must plan our development. What do we need to develop? We can only use what we have to get what we want. And that's what everybody is doing. But before we move into that, I want us to understand that, one, the Anglo-Saxons didn't come to Africa because of the African people. The Arabs never stepped in Africa because of the African people, because they love us so much. They want us, all of us, dead by tomorrow in the morning. The Asians are not coming to Africa today because they love us so much. They are all here because of our assets. Anytime I mention the word asset, I'm talking about resources.
Resources.
All of them are here simply because of Africa's resources.
Assets.
Our assets. Assets are the resources you use to create wealth. Now, if you don't own it and you don't control it, how are you going to create wealth and get out of poverty?
Using the same assets. Using the same assets.
Exactly. Which
you don't control.
Which you don't control. How do you use it? And what are these assets? They occur in two natural ways and one created by the two. the number one and the most important asset that this continent has is the human beings. And development is about people.
Human capital.
And it is people who make development happen. Any conversation about development is about people. So as a continent, as a nation, when I say a nation, I mean the African people and our homeland. As a nation, our most valuable asset is the human beings. Not the physical Kojo Ablode standing here, but my values, my knowledge, my interests, and my abilities. That is the value. Not just any human being body standing there. Now, are we in charge? Do we own our human assets? And do we control it? Because that is the sovereignty, the question on sovereignty. If we are really sovereign, do we own our human capital? Do we control our human capital?
Our human asset. We've called them assets, isn't it?
Yeah, the human assets.
Yes.
Do we really own our human capital?
Do you own yourselves, in other words?
Currently, I participated in a high-level government meeting, and the conversation was about youth employment strategy. Now, my contribution was this. If you talk about employment, you're talking about labor, right? Mm. If you talk about labor, labor has a market, right? Mm. In the market, there are forces that operate. Yes. They call them laws. Mm. And there are two. The law of demand and the law of supply. Mm. Now, we are busy supplying labor into a market where there is no demand.
Hey.
Yeah? That is the formula for unemployment. Yeah, we are producing labor that needs to have certain values, certain knowledge, set of knowledge, skills, interests, attitude, and abilities. And we are giving this from generation to generation. And today, the human asset we are producing, the human capital, the knowledge, the values we are giving to our people, that asset which we have, goes to the market, and there is no demand, and everybody is quiet.
For that human capital.
Everybody is quiet. All our ministries on the continent are quiet. The vice chancellors are quiet. The parents who are selling their properties and paying school fees are quiet. The students themselves are quiet. Who took us to that point? How did we get there? That things that affect us directly, we cannot rise up and question them and create conversations around them and figure out how we got to that point and find a way back to on track, back to our track. We are still teaching in our school systems about the Canadian prairies. How do you teach your children about things you don't have? Why are we busy teaching ourselves about things we don't have? I came around recently, then I went somewhere after Mbale, a place called Manafwa. Any piece of stone you find in the village is iron ore. When I listened to their story, they told me even the maram that was collected to fill the road for Tamakin is all iron ore. Right? But there is nobody in Manafwa who knows the value of iron ore.
Hey.
No one.
Uh-huh.
No one.
It is the white man who knows the price.
We have,
Free your mind now. Free.
we have no idea the economic value, the industrial value of iron ore. In our school systems, they ask you, where do we have iron ore in Uganda? If you can just list the locations, you score 10 over 10. Very sad. But you have no idea the value of that resource. So once we get the human capital wrong, everything else goes wrong. We need to revisit what we are teaching ourselves and what we are learning. I've talked about identity, and I've explained to you that there's no African who is a Christian or a Muslim or anything else. All Africans
Other
are
than
simply,
being an African.
all Africans, we are just Africans. And we have our culture, we have our tradition. Culture, tradition is a way of life, and that is where we come from. I come from a family, and that's where I belong. I don't belong to anything else. My family, together with other families, create a community where I come from. The communities come together, create the next level, the next time, until it comes to all of us. That is who we are. We are nothing else. And that is our start point. I'll plead with you. Go back and think about this question. Ask yourself, who am I? And try to define yourself.
Okay.
I'll bring you to
Point number 2, because when we talk about sovereign assets, we have talked only about one asset, the human capital. Let's go to the 2, because now we need to...
I am going to respond to them. I am timing myself. Thank you. I want to explain some basic principles. I said we are going to leave this place when we go back and start asking questions. Because our biggest problem is that we are not questioning anything. It's time we start asking questions. It's high time. All the guys who are promoting LGBT from the US are married. And they have children. So what exactly are they telling us? And why are they not telling the Arabs? Who are their better friends than we are? They are married. Kamala Harris is married, isn't it? We all know she's married. So what is she telling us? Why are we not asking questions?
Obama is married.
Obama is married.
Biden is married.
Yeah, Biden is married. They are married. They are not homosexuals. So what are they telling us? And it is high time we rebuff this arrogance openly and straightforward and get back on track. It's because we have lost control. We have lost balance. So anybody can walk in and say what they want.
Say anything.
I want to tell you one thing. There is something we Africans need to know. If I ask you, where do human beings live? I'm sure I'll get different answers. There are people who tell me we live in the world. But I will tell you, human beings live on planet Earth. Human beings don't live in a world or the world. The world has a bank. It has a food, what is it called? An agriculture organization. It has a health organization. It has all kinds and forms of institutions. Human life, survival, our survival is provided by the earth, Mother Earth. Everything you see here, our clothes, phones, pen, everything you see comes from Mother Earth. So what is the world? Take it from me, go think about it. The world is a system designed to disrupt the peace on earth. Can I repeat that? The world, what we call the world, which has a bank, which has a health organization, which has a food organization, which has a what, is simply a system. We need to know that. What is the purpose of the world system? Is to control
You and me. Yeah.
the resources. Every conversation is about resources. To control the resources of other people. If you say no, they bring an army. Right? We need to ask ourselves, at the time when the League of Nations was formed, after the First World War, which has transformed into the United Nations organizations, into the United Nations today, how many African countries, I call them colonial resource enclaves? How many of them were independent? What is our population? What do we do? What are we doing in the UN? The Bretton Woods institutions were created in 1944. The purpose? To rebuild Europe. What are we doing with the IMF and the World Bank? They have made us to feel that without them, we cannot survive. But let me just give you a simple scenario. In 2019, Switzerland exported about 98,000 metric tons of coffee. What an irony.
Exported to where?
To the world market, the coffee market across the globe. 98,000 metric tons. They don't grow coffee, so that's the beginning of the irony. And they earned $2.6 billion in coffee sales.
Which they don't own.
Which they don't own. Uganda exported about 500,000 metric tons.
Of what?
Of coffee.
And we grow it. That is
Five
ours.
times what Switzerland has exported.
Yeah, but the point is that is ours.
That is 500,000, about 500,000.
We grow it.
We grew and we also export. It's coffee. So
Yes.
we have also exported.
Okay, so what did we earn back?
And we earned less than $500 million. 5 times less
Than them.
what Switzerland, who exported 5 times less what we exported, earned. And we are quiet.
We grow our coffee, they take it, they earn more than we earn.
They just roast.
That's the point.
They just roast it, pack it, and sell. It's coffee roasting rocket science.
So whose problem is it? Is it us or them?
Yeah, the problem is with us. Nobody. If I'm giving you problems, you can stop me. And I think it's time we should stop this funny Anglo-Saxon arrangement that they have with us. Number 2, let's go into our environment. Let's start with what we see, our climate, the weather, the rainfall, the freshwater bodies, the fertile land, we are going down, the soils, the swamps, the animals, the butterflies, the birds, the tourism potentials that we have in our environment. And let's start going down. The iron ore, the gold, the diamonds, all of that. And you, who have run out of your coal and the small iron ore you have, you got the guts to come to Africa and tell Africans we are poor. Then what is your definition of poverty? For me, poverty is simply lack of resources.
And we have resources.
So when we have all that we have, from the human beings to what we have in our environment, we should not accept that we are poor.
But actually, Mr. Kodzo, I agree with you. Much of the problem is that we as Africans have also accepted the definition of the Western people. When they say Africa is third world, we also adopt it even in our paperwork. When you are applying for donation, you say, I come from third world country, which they told you. When you ask them to define what is wealth or what is poverty, they say resources. Now, do I have resources or not? I do have. Why am I telling them that I come from third world country? I know that I've left a lot of resources in Congo, but when I'm applying for their grants and donations and so on, I say, please help me because I come from third world country. So the problem also is our mindset that We chased them from here. They went. But they are here in our colors. They are here because they have collaborators here in our colors. And they're actually spying on our resources every day on behalf of the very people we chased. So, Mr. Kodzo, I can hear your cry. But I think the problem also with Africa is that we have accepted any definition by the white man.
Let me respond
He's
to
the
that.
one who defines you.
Let me respond to that.
He says you are poor, you say, yes, I am poor.
Let me
He says
respond.
your continent is third world, you say, yes, it is.
Let me respond to
Now.
that quickly. Let me respond to that quickly, Honorable Right Speaker. I was in a meeting at higher government level meeting recently, and my proposal was very simple. Let our Ministry of Education take care of primary education and only teach nationalism, patriotism, Pan-Africanism, and teach the children about our resources for 7 years. From secondary school, those who understand and know our problems best, who are the technical people, technocrats who formulate our policies, must design the school systems for agriculture from secondary school and be run by Minister of Agriculture, for tourism to be run because they know the problems so they can prepare the human capital to address those problems.
Free your mind now.
All the way up to PhD. So a child by P7 must be able to choose a career. And we should remove everything that we don't have from our curriculum and only teach our children about what we have. And I also think that where we have fresh water, schools around there should learn about what they have. You know, those who are from where there is iron ore, set up a school that will teach them about iron ore. Then we shall not have Kampala jammed, and then we are looking for space because everybody thinks Kampala is where to be. We can turn our villages into another Kampala if we know what we have and can protect them and can use them to get what we want.
The sovereignty of African nation are we in charge or they are in charge? And who is that one in charge? Why is he in charge of your continent? Who put yes? There are many questions there.
Who put him in charge? He's in charge on whose behalf?
Yes. Are you in know that you are under a certain sovereign
You're under captivity.
authority?
You're under captivity.
You are under a certain foreign authority. Is it direct or indirect? Because those conversations, Mr. Speaker, they have been going on. Unfortunately, the African scholars, they have not provided solutions. The scholars and leaders. And when we go to such air-conditioned room, we just lament. But the fact is, the imperialists are not sleeping.
Is there something we can do, Mr. Kasher?
Yes.
What is it that we can do?
Because we know.
After knowing what are we doing,
We
can we
know
do something?
We know you can imagine having your family or home knowing that you are not in charge of your family. And you innocently or deliberately keep quiet. And you let either your neighbor or another foreigner take charge of your family. And you go around boasting that you were in charge of your family. So those are contradictions that scholars can answer. Now, today, I'm reminding Pan-Africanists that the struggle to liberate Africa totally, the total liberation of Africa is needed. Is needed. You see, Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the former speaker because
Comrade Ablode.
yes, he mixed so many things that are very, very important. The imperialists designed the way how they can control the world.
And we are aware.
50 years ago, people were actually know how they run this world. 100 years ago, some people somewhere, their comfortable room, like the way how they divided us on the paper in 1884, 85, in Berlin, just on the paper. Who doesn't know, for God's sake, that the global economy is controlled by a few? The other day, I was seeing African leaders complaining that when it comes to loaning, giving loans, Africa is given at a certain high percentage. They are giving you at a such percentage because they want you to remain like that, because you are your fandimu, you don't care.
They are fandimus.
Yes. We have even Biafandimu leaders, and they are the many.
In Africa?
In Africa. They are the majority. They are in charge of our countries, the so-called countries. There is a bank here called African Development Bank. What are you doing? Why can't Africa have our own currency? Empower this African Development Bank to fund our
projects.
Lastly, yes,
there was the
why can't we, for instance, design our own education system? If I was the president of Uganda today,
maybe you will. Maybe
you never know.
2090.
Yes. I would make Katwe. Do you know this place called Katwe? Yes. A university. I would make it a university. Because
that Musabode will be a lecturer.
Yes, and even yes, there are people who are walking the talk. When you pass Katwe, by the way, you can't even realize it is even in Uganda. And some people, we have many universities here who cannot even make.
But what surprises me?
Cannot make that bottle.
A matchbox.
But the man, yes, a matchbox. But there is a man who don't want to go to school, is making rules. You people, money would be going there. Unless one time I was in China. Let me give you this because this is very important.
That is your very last one.
Yes, it's very last. Yes.
There are so many.
Yeah, because you see, these are very important things. Because I'm a researcher, I'm giving you now. I'm trying now to generate more hits in your heads. Yeah, I'm trying to scratch your head so that you can think as you come here. Now, I was in China. Let me tell you. How many of you have smartphones?
All of us.
I wish you could know people who are making those phones. These are P7 graduates. P7 graduates, they are making phones which are used by professors in Africa. Have that one as
a homework.
As a homework.
Thank you.
Now the question is, you, what are you doing
at university level? Thank you.
So today, what I'm going to talk about is how we can use ICT to enhance or to foster the sovereign asset, our sovereign assets. We have them, and then how we can also
use the ICT as a masterpiece to Africa's development. We need to take advantage of the ICT, isn't it?
Yes.
That's the point. Okay.
Yeah. Now, number one is access to information. There are a lot of platforms out there that the African youth can be able to tap in and get this information, because when you have information, you gain knowledge, and which then we go to wisdom. This is very paramount for the African youth. Now, when you gain this information, you will find that you can be able to learn different best ways of how you can be able to use your own resources. Yesterday, I landed on on the salty water, how they were making electricity out of it. We have Lake Katwe, which we have in Kasese, and all growing up, I didn't know that we could create light through that. People have lanterns, but they are using that water. So this is what our education system is supposed to compose right from childhood. These are the science experiments children are supposed to be learning. So we have to be able to tap information. Another thing is...
But I'm glad the education system, now the syllabus is being changed. I think they are trying to adopt those
now
issues.
The education system, believe me, that DIT, it has a lot of loopholes.
DIT is the Directorate of Industrial Training.
Yes.
DIT.
Yeah, so when you look at the way these programs are, it's going to take a long time for people to pick up from them. So me, as a person who is I'm a lecturer in a university. I've studied, I have children, and I have taught my children a lot of things that I've told you from day one, coding and all that. So you need to, how our brother from Ghana has just, Mr. Kojo, Brother Kojo has just said, that's human, you are the number one. You have to stand up and equip your own children. Don't think that these leaders who are playing...
You are the first school. You are the first university.
Yes. Teach your children the
parent.
skills that you want. Because in the education system, we are controlled by the IMF.
The first classroom is the home.
Is the home. We have the IMF, we have the World Bank. They are giving us money and they are giving us terms and conditions. For you, you are just moving. You don't know what is out. You are very lucky that you always come here, the youth that come here, and those ones that view us on TV. You should be able to equip yourself. Number 3, I'm talking of access of information, then I'm talking about skills building. Now, Africa, if we are able to control our own assets, we need to be equipped with our skills. Now, the government is not going to come to your communities. Okay, they are trying to do that. They come and they say, we are going to train people to plait hair. We are going to train people to make briquettes. We are training people. Those are those things in line with the assets that are community-based. Now, you have other things that, a lot of things that you can leverage on. You have to gain those skills by accessing. We have different platforms. For example, if you go to, there is what they call Alson courses or Coursera courses. You, the students who are here, let me tell you, that is where you are going to learn free courses. You will learn basing on the assets that you have. If it's tourism, if it's water bodies, if it is the snow, all these things, we have them, but we are not in control of them. But if you take it upon yourselves to learn how to utilize them, I'm telling you, with the time, you will be so woke and you'll be able to control that yourselves. Then also, digital financial inclusion. When you see different places, there are very many people who do not have access to digital financial platforms. For example, mobile banking. If I ask how many people here are using mobile banking, you'll find that maybe we could be having very few people here who are using mobile banking. You need to know about such financial, you have to get financial literacy, that all that you can access it by yourself. You don't need everything that we are teaching you in school. I was seeing the other time, Engineer Aita Joel talking about expired courses, programs. Yes, we have those programs that are not going to benefit a person. And by you're just getting their scanty knowledge. Yes, but I'm telling you, sit down, find what you want. That takes me to another point of data management and analysis. Last time we were discussing about how the African youth can be able to curb themselves out of unemployment. Unemployment, we have data management analysis. These courses are for free. You can find them on Alson courses or Coursera courses. Study about data science. Data is needed everywhere. These people, the white people, they come here, they fund us as researchers. We collect data. After collecting data, we sort data. After sorting data, we analyze the data. After that, we sit down, we interpret the data for them. They take out the information out of this. But how are we using that data as ourselves here in Africa? When we look at that data, you can be able to look at the metrics, look at what you use that data to make informed decisions, data-driven decisions, so that those are the decisions. When you make them, you will be able to bring development to yourselves based on the assets. For example, if it's a tourism city,
the first institution or the first person for to use such data should be the country.
yes, the government has to use that. But you see, the problem is the government, our governments in Africa, we know the kind of leaders that we have. Most of them are covered with greed. So they do not want the citizens to be able to see such information, to gain that information. You look at, I was telling you that you need to gather information. For example, if tourists are coming in a tourism city like Fort Portal, you are from Fort Portal, what are those things that you need to do to be able to tap in or bring employment to yourselves? Look at your talents, look at your social capital, look at the skills that you have, look at the culture. How can you leverage on it? You can make dancing troops, you can make, come up with beads and all your traditional things and be able to sell them to the tourists. So you are not directly controlling the tourism, but you are tapping in.
You are benefiting from
yes.
them.
So that is what we call the asset based communication, community development. So we can be able to develop our communities based on that. Lastly, transparency and accountability. That's what the government is not. The governments cannot do that. Information is for us as citizens in Africa. We are supposed to be tracking what the government is doing with our assets. So if we have the sovereign assets, we want to know all the information. What are you doing about it? What are the sales? Who are these investors that are working with the government? You find that everything is going back to a limited number of individuals. So in my conclusion, I say that Africa can develop if we can use ICT to be able to liberate ourselves, so that we can be able to enhance the sovereign asset to protect our assets, and also to develop our communities. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Madam Shamim Kemigisha from Makerere University Business School. Now let me invite Mr. Nkwanga Michael. Nkwanga Michael is a student of Chambogo University, but is also our acting spokesperson of the Pan-African Pyramid.
Right, Honorable Speaker, to be as quick as a cook, I want to look at what do we do. In my personal opinion, we must discuss sovereign asset protection alongside sovereign wealth funds.
Sovereign wealth funds?
Yes.
Self-support?
The moment financial institutions that are responsible for these financial statistical variations are controlled by the so-called imperialists.
IMF, World Bank.
The International Monetary Fund, we have World Bank, and then we have also the International Bureau of Settlement. It is also an international player. The moment all the ratings are based on imperialist organizations, that will dictate the interest rates that African presidents have been crying about, that are going to dictate for what purpose the funds are going to be used for, and the institutions that must watch over the manifestation of these projects. Now, what happens? The absurd reality is African states have willingly embraced economic vulnerability. And because we are not in capacity, we don't have the capacity and the ability to pay back these financial loans, we lift our restrictions on sovereign asset protection to now accommodate interests of those that gave us grants and those that and donors. You borrow money, you cannot pay back the money. We discuss minerals because we have them. We discuss construction and we cannot do away with that. That's point number one. Point number two, we need to foster intra-African integration and remove trade barriers so that Africa can transform their own economy. You know, it is funny how African states are somewhat not very comfortable with trading with each other, but their point of convenience is trading with China, is trading with Europe. If Uganda and other African states only embark on integration and lift whatever sort of trade barriers, we are at a good point of self-sufficiently transforming our economy. Thirdly, and lastly, in the interest of time, greater regional integration is going to provide the following. One, we are going to have a larger supply market, which now is going to accelerate the manufacturing specialization for many African producers, certainly. If African producers have a position, they are competing globally. Now we also have robust manufacturing industries which are going to provide jobs for low-skilled workers, which are the majority in a country like Uganda. Providing a livelihood now means that those that are not catered for in the formal economy certainly have a place in the informal economy. If you have now increased the average household income, you are going to boost domestic demand. This is what African countries must do. The moment you boost your domestic demand, it is going to impact manufacturing producers, and it is going to create the urge for both quality and quantity, and then create global competitiveness.
Free your mind now. Be part of People's Pan-African Parliament, the Pan-African Pyramid Debate with your speaker, Andrew Irumba Katusabe.
We've heard this song enough. We were colonized, our things were taken, we were colonized. Colonization, it went long time ago. Now we should think about what is the next step. What are we doing next? Because even when you're in your home and you have your in Uganda right now, they will tell you that children from poor backgrounds are the ones who do well in class because they know where they come from and they focus on elevating their families. Let's learn how to elevate our family, Africa, before we start blaming America.
Hey.
Another thing in Africa,
don't organize.
In Africa, we have unfavorable policies by governments. This is
our own government.
Our own government.
This time not the foreign government.
Not the foreign government.
Our own one.
I won't go so much into the foreign governments. Because you will find, recently the parliament was discussing the Islamic banking thing. In UK, it has done well. In the Western world, it has done well because there is no interest and blah, blah. DTB wouldn't have taken Mr. Hamis's money if there was Islamic banking. But one of the people from the committee said, let's discuss some and leave out some. In the future, when need comes, we shall discuss this. Those are the kind of the leaders we have. Leaders who think of today, how will I stay a minister? How will I stay a governor? How will I stay a president? Not how will the people who will come after me find the policies? How will they find the country? When we go on the issue of education system, the issue always will rotate on the policies, because me as Mugisha, me as a student of international relations, me as a director of an organization, I don't have authority to effect this. But who has the authority? They are these people who set the policies. The people in parliament, the people in government, the executive body. So this is a voice to the people in the executive body. Please be patriotic enough before you take the patriotic classes to the students. Because
because we learn from you.
You yourself be patriotic.
I can be patriotic.
No, I'm saying the people who want to go and
they should be patriotic
and teach
enough
students.
not to swindle the money that is to benefit the people.
I thank you so much, Mr.
As I wind for 1 minute, as I wind up, I believe we as the youth of Africa, we should believe in teamwork. We as people, all youths in Africa, we are in bits. I want to be rich alone in the community so that I drive a big car. Why don't we be a team? Why don't we be a family? Because if I become rich and you become rich, then Africa will be rich. I thank you.
I wonder, Alan?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Protocol observed. To be as quick as enlightening, I have here a question, because we are talking of sovereignty of asset protection and asset-based development. I have a question here. How can we own our assets?
How can we own our assets?
And this requires the Pan-Africans and Pan-African leaders to come to come and make a strong forum. What will this forum do? These guys will help us in like forming strong policies and strategies.
Tiaga.
Which strategies now will promote some what I'm mentioning, like in the three important points. One is value addition of what my comrade has spoke of, and the value addition is one of the form is customization. Customization is it is more of manufacturing the products basing on the customer's need.
How can Africa get developed? First, it must address these issues. First of it is, this development is a complex process that involves multiple factors. One of them is a political, stable country. Another one is having good governance. Good governance, most especially, this is a critical, important point for a sustainable development, because it addresses things like corruption, because a development cannot happen when the government is corrupt, when the authorized people are corrupt. Corruption, this is a disease of Africa. Everyone knows about it. This is a disease that Africa has faced for years and years, and so many heads of states have continuously been mentioning it, that they are leading a regime of thieves.
When you take example of Asia, there is what we call Asian miracle. If you ever tried to dig into that, the politicians or the leaders, they used the economic masters to influence the econometric models to develop Africa, rather to develop Asia. And that's the reason, even currently, it is called Asian economic miracle. That's the reason it was from 1960s to 1990s. We managed to see Asian countries developing at a rapid speed. Those of Taiwan, China, Hong Kong, and King Kong. So what we can do, we as Africans, we have to form a consortium of states that can help us to do and act with clear and bold objectives that can help us to take Africa from the level where we are called third world countries to a level where we can also be called developed countries. That consortium, it can be made, because when we take example, when we have elections in Africa, you see European Union coming to Africa to supervise our elections.
As election observers.
As election observers. But it cannot...
But when Europeans are having elections, Africans don't go there as election observers.
Exactly. You cannot get any African country pushing to America or pushing to Europe to supervise the elections. And even if we are to form that consortium of African countries, it has to be, we cannot accept to be like the other consortiums that we have, like UN. UN, it is the council, or it is organization where we have United Nations Security Council with 5 countries with veto powers where you cannot find any country from Africa.
Nabasa Alex.
Are we in control of our assets? The answer is no. Whereby drilling only oil from African soil, you have to first pass it to Tanga, France, to where? So is that your oil? Do you have control? My point is, our asset cannot fully help us unless we are united. That's what Kwame Nkrumah said, that Africa must unite. And how can we push to that? The cause for Pan-Africanism, of which we as young people, as young generation, I think our main role should be in fighting to see how can we combine, or how can we unite as Africans.
Makanga Alex.
The primary asset of any sovereign is its population.
Human capital.
For me, I called it citizenry asset.
Mm.
The citizenry asset.
It is correct. You're correct. Human capital. Human beings.
Yes.
Mm.
But also, that asset, that citizenry asset I'm talking about, must or has to understand its worth. Mr. Speaker, for example, if you're in a family and you don't take your family members as an asset to the family, you might find yourself in a dilemma that if you go, or if you get a situation where you cannot be able to do other things, all what you have generated might perish in no time. Mr. Speaker, it's worth understanding this by states or nations and find a way of protecting the same, or else the opportunists will take advantage of it. If the country or if the leaders don't understand this asset very well and find a way of protecting it and make good use of it, the opportunists may take advantage of this.
When we were walking up, I was sharing with the Honorable, the Right Honorable Speaker, that we have talked enough. We need to engage purposely for action. The Pan-African pyramid has existed for some good time.
10 years.
We have met and listened to so many different people. So this program must go beyond the weekly lectures, where we can start engaging our leadership and reasoning some of these issues with them.
Yes.
Because they have the power, we give them the power to lead us.
Yes.
So I think we shall take this conversation further.
Mm.
One of the things I've dedicated myself and the rest of my life to is to push this concept, this ideology of Africans protecting everything we have. I'm constituting the African Institute. It is going to be a think tank that will, pull together like-minded people, delve into research into the obvious challenges that we have, and come out with concrete continental, solutions. That is my journey from now on. To respond to some of the issues that were raised, if we want Africa to unite, I'll use the American example. The Americans woke up one time in 1768 there and said, Britain, enough is enough. We are no more your colony. We have declared, not gaining independence, but we have declared our independence. The American independence was a declaration by the Americans, a message to the British that enough is enough. The Queen, we are not going to serve you anymore. We have decided to choose our path. If we fail, we fail. If we succeed, we succeed. And that is what I think of where Africa's solution is. It is time we get up and speak to the things that are not working for us. And we need all the boldness. We need to say it everywhere and anywhere. Normally, back at home, I have my nieces, cousins who come stay with me, go to school. But I have one rule. You don't enter my house, my fence, with an English name. It sounds funny, but it is a big, huge problem.
You sound rude.
It's a big, huge problem. For Africa to unite, it must be a declaration. We just need a declaration that we need one currency, we need one passport, we need a few languages that we shall call ours. We just have to declare the things we want. And say from today onwards, that is what it is. You take it or you leave it. We survive or we perish. I think that is where we are. We are spending a lot of money selling our assets, family assets, paying school fees. We are seeing the products, our children coming out and ending up in the streets. But everybody is quiet. There is a need for us to revolutionize, to change our educational system. Africa had educational systems before the Anglo-Saxon establishment came here. That is why we never had street children in our typical African communities. We never had prisons. There was no hunger. People had where to stay. Why? Because our system is designed in such a way that your talents are identified early enough. As you grow, they observe you. And as you get of age, they say you go and stay with that uncle who is a blacksmith because you like playing with this way. That was our system. And that system never produced anybody who ended up without having what to do. And our communities were self-sufficient. There is nothing wrong with our systems. We just need to find our own way of modernizing our systems. There is nothing wrong with us. We just have to modernize our systems, and they will work for us. This is something we are not going to stop doing. I wake up in the morning, I don't stop thinking about this continent. I don't stop looking out for solutions, and I will continue to do that for the rest of my life on earth. I implore, most of the questions were about how do we protect our, how do you protect, no, there was a nice question. The thing is, you own your assets. Are you getting the point? Maybe it is ignorance. Maybe you are not taught about in school about it. So it's just a matter of saying, I'm taking my stuff back. You have had control for some time. It's not yours. Just leave it and go. If you want a discussion, come and we talk as equals. It must be a declaration. We don't need to go to the UN to explain anything to anyone. We just need to work together as the Pan-African Pyramid.
On the Pan-African Pyramid?
And other players and set up a platform where we can engage our leaders and our policy makers to focus on our assets first before anything else. Our going to the UN, we go spend money. Let's have our internal conversations about our issues, and we'll find solutions to these issues.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, comrade.
I would want to say that for those of you who are interested in investigating and interrogating African issues by research, you can get me through the Pan-African Pyramid. We shall look at your area of interest. I'll work with you, get the research done, and then we can publish tangible, pathways that we think our continent can adopt, you know, and just leave these guys alone and do our own things. Thank you very much.